It really helps if I put us on the screen. But
I
what
was
is
just
going
like,
on, everybody?
what a
How are
transition.
you doing today? I'm trying to share stuff on media and everything else. It's just a fun night. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Dude, I am good. Kind of exhausted. Justin and I, for those that don't know, we're going to Monaco in a week and a half, and we have to plan 26 different panels. So I've been working on that with like Peter and Justin, and just trying to get it. Peter's a screenwriter who's doing the panels with us, and all of these panels are being run by me, Justin, and Peter. Occasionally, our friend Lanny will hop in and help us out, but for the most part, it's us. I mean, granted, it's a free trip to Monaco. Can't complain too much. It is going to be a blast. It's just, prep work. It's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been fun. I've enjoyed our little pitch meetings. So the con, Mike, is a couple of the people from Wizard World and Lanny are the ones running it. They're behind it all. Like, I didn't realize Lanny was like this was her con. So I'm super excited to be a part of it.
I kind of figured once you mentioned like she was involved, I was like, oh, is that a continuation of some of the Wizard World people? Because Wizard World's kind of defunct now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of them went to work for
whatever it was, moved to GalaxyCon. I'm not sure it's the same people, or even
So I kind of figured, it was kind of a continuation of some of the same people you've been working with. Otherwise, why would you be getting the trip if they didn't trust your ability to be able to facilitate a bunch of panels? So.
Yeah, so it's been fun. I like being that guy because somebody even pitched us a panel, one of the fan panels, which is what we are when we submit the panels. And it was for dad jokes for like 45 minutes. They're going to come in and they're going to do dad jokes. I was like, that'll be fun for the kids. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that'll be a great
for me,
for Justin, me, and Peter to step away and, grab some food or something. But I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
But now,
I'm watching the dad joke stuff.
Well, Monaco, is there going to be a challenge now of like language? I guess
they said no. They said a lot of the folks that are visiting are, for the most part, going to be okay with English.
Okay.
Hopefully not. Hopefully, I know there's going to be a bunch of French people and a bunch of Italians, so we'll have to figure it out if there is some type of gap.
Cool.
I think we'll be okay. When I went to Saudi, I was surprised at how many people there knew English, and I would imagine it'd be a similar situation here. So I'm fingers crossed. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to get cards made up. It's going to be a blast. But like, what are you guys watching? Mike, you were telling us about a show that I'm kind of interested in checking out.
I literally just started it like 2 hours ago. Nice. The franchise on, I think it airs on HBO first, but I just caught up on the first 4 episodes on Max this afternoon.
It's football?
No, it's a comedy about making basically a Marvel movie. It's about like the main character is like the first assistant director on this. Basically, it's like someone's making an Ant-Man movie while simultaneously they're filming like the next big Avengers movie next door, and it's all about like franchise competition and like probably what Kevin Feige's like in real life, because the Kevin Feige analog I said in the chat is wild, and I'm like that has to be pulled from some kind of truth, like someone, because this show has Richard E. Grant and Daniel Bruhl in the cast. Richard E. Grant is a very pompous theatrical actor playing, I think, like a Magneto type character in the movie within the movie, and Daniel Bruhl is the pretentious director, and you know them. They be in Marvel. He's old Loki. He's Zemo, and they are some of the best performances in the show. I mean, everyone's doing great work in the show. Nick Kroll just showed up in the 4th episode as like Ezra Miller, I guess, or something. But but it's interesting. I've been really getting into shows about the behind the scenes of shows or movies and things like that, because before this I watched the Larry Sanders show in its entirety and really loved that. And anything that takes the piss out of mainstream, corporate franchise stuff, because a lot of the stuff that happens on the show is made because it's very cynical executive producer brain is there. Like I said, the Kevin Feige character is like, we have a woman problem, and so what we need to do is just cram this movie all of a sudden chock-a-block full of women, just so we keep the ladies happy, and has no understanding of like what actually goes into actual representation and things like that. it gets into a little bit of toxic fandom. There's a lady who shows up for basically like, a supporting role, and apparently she's getting flamed on the internet for her role, and she just wants out of the movie, but they keep bringing her back for reshoots, and she's like, God damn it, I just don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, I wonder how accurate this is to actually making a superhero movie these days. So
I want to check it out.
Probably
I want to
pretty
check
close.
out
I wonder-
the Larry Sanders Show as well.
Oh, I highly recommend the Larry Sanders Show. It has quickly become one of my new favorites. It's very 90s in terms of its office politics and some stuff. So people just got to roll with that and accept that. But I think it's one of the funniest and sharpest kind of satires about the industry. So.
I caught up on some horror movies. I watched Maxine for the first time.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it.
Yeah, and maybe really want to rewatch like Pearl and X, like, because there's more to it for sure. And I'm like, I gotta, you know what I mean? Like, there's world building here that I'm missing because it's been a while since I've watched
Right.
the other two. But
well,
it's crazy because I rewatched X and Pearl like 2 months ago, like right before Maxine came out, because I was going to go see Maxine in theaters, and it didn't happen. But
right,
man, I love those two movies, especially Pearl.
Justin, what would your ranking be of the three movies then, now that you've seen Maxine, but based off of what you remember about X and Pearl?
Yeah. I think X is still my favorite, just because it's like there's something about it being the first one that still gets me by being the start of it. Then I think now I'm kind of split between Pearl and Maxine. Now recency bias makes me think I like Maxine better, but I really have to go and see Pearl again because I liked Pearl. I did. I've liked all of them, to be honest. So if I had to rank them, X, Maxine, Pearl, but I could be swayed depending on the conversation.
That whole series, but especially Maxine, is kind of a good takedown of the industry too. Maxine's got a lot going for its satirical slant on movies.
Is Maxine theory that X and Pearl are very different movies? Is Maxine different in the same sense?
From what I remember from Pearl, I'm having a hard time remembering Pearl. Full transparency, like I watched it for sure, but like Pearl's it is very different.
The elderly couple in X.
I know it's bad. I just like, but yes, it is very different. It is absolutely very different.
The way I'm recalling those movies, because I think X and Pearl are on Max as well right now, along with Maxine, so you can catch all three of them there. Well, X is obviously like the send up of stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and things like that. Pearl, I got very much more of a contemporary, like gothic horror, folk horror type of angle on it because.
Yeah, you've watched it, right?
Yeah, I've watched all three of them.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. Yeah, how would you rank it then? Sorry, I should have reversed that question to you.
Oh, I'd go Pearl, X, and Maxine. I like stylistically a lot of the stuff Maxine is doing, and Mia Goth I think is still doing solid work as the lead. I just don't find, because she also did the lead as Pearl as well. It was like a dual role. I like more what she did with Pearl. And maybe it's just because Pearl got a whole movie dedicated to her background and stuff. And so Mia Goth has more to do there. I kind of feel like if we're picking up the Maxine character from where we left off with her in X, like they don't really do much with her in terms of her growth in this movie.
Oh, yeah. She didn't grow at all.
No.
She is the same human. If you liked her in X, you're going to like her in this. She is very.
But I like the style aesthetic of Maxine because it's going for that gritty, 80s neon giallo-ish.
Yeah, that's probably what got me more than anything. I liked the set pieces. I wish they would have played more with the folks in her life, like the games, the VHS store, either guy that either lives with her or dates her. I'm not sure. I don't know what, or just best friend. I think
he's gay. I think he's gay. He's just her best friend. Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, I wish he would have been more involved in the movie.
I think that's part of it too for me, was because of the fact that a lot of the supporting characters surrounding her end up being disposable throughout a majority of the movie. You never really get a sense of her connecting with anyone. And maybe that's part of it too, is because of the events of X, she is purposely like closed off from everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's like, after that experience, like, holy shit, how do you open up to people again? or even display vulnerability in front of people. So maybe that's a purposeful choice, is that the character is really cold throughout a majority of the movie for me. But I was just kind of like, that doesn't quite do it so much for me. Whereas when she's working as Pearl, like Pearl has a full on just like descent into failure that ends up tilting her for life. And you sympathize with that a little bit more than
she's probably the least human character in this whole thing. Outside of maybe the villain, the true villain.
The true villain. I was like, this is what I said months ago, and I don't think this is spoiling anything for you, Jay, but the true villain in this movie, I was kind of, I could see Robin Williams doing that role.
Oh, he would have loved it. He would have ate that scene up for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. What else did you say you watched, Justin?
I watched Men, which was interesting. I just binge watched a bunch of horror movies I hadn't seen yet. That was wild to me. I think I need to watch that either 2 or 3 times more just to like fully grasp that movie.
It
was a lot.
It's very allegorical. Mm-hmm. Like if you try to take that thing verbatim literally, like don't bother, because I don't think that movie's meant to be taken literally.
Yeah, to me it was just like her trying to heal from the trauma of her husband's suicide, and like the more I thought, you know what I mean? Like I had to really think about it after that movie to be like, okay,
right,
I get like the monster's not really the monster, it's the trauma. It's like the whole like thing. But
it's a manifestation of what's rolling around inside of her after that particular event. It reminded me a lot of The Substance that came out recently, because I watched The Substance.
Oh yeah.
I think The Substance does what Men does a little bit better.
Sure.
In that, it's being purely allegorical, but it's still, not meandering too much. I found Men kind of meandered a little bit too much until that last part, where the last sequence completely melts my brain. I was like, Jesus. It
was wild. Yeah, the birthing pod of a human.
I call it the Russian nesting doll sequence.
It's a good allegory, for sure.
Nice. I've been listening to the podcast that John and I talked about a few weeks ago, What Went Wrong, and I'm in the middle of the Mad Max episode, and the reason I bring that up is because, usually when you hear about a movie that starts production in the mid-90s and then it finally comes out in 2015, the movie's completely different than what they started with in the 90s. What's fascinating about the Mad Max Fury Road story is that that was the story in the 90s. Like even Charlize Theron back in the 90s was somebody they wanted to cast to play Furiosa. And it's fascinating to me how much of that stuck. And they were going to film it, and then 9/11 happened. So Fox got cold feet and stopped it, because we would have gotten Fury Road back then. And like I said, I've been listening to this podcast, just hearing the journey of these movies and the stories they go through, especially Alien 3. That changed many times, but it's fascinating how much Furiosa stayed the same, or Fury Road stayed the same throughout.
So that podcast, how do they get their information? I'm curious. I'm sure they're big enough, probably to just call people, or what?
Dude, they research, they read scripts. Like like for Alien, the guy read the 3 or 4 different Alien 3 scripts so they could talk about it. They read books, stuff online. They take turns researching so they can do 2 episodes. Okay. Like one can do one while the other is doing the other.
Because in this day and age, a lot of the filmmakers, they lay out like their original intent on, in articles and stuff. And it's just a matter of aggregating all that information and putting it in like a timeline that works. So it's like true crime.
I feel bad for Elizabeth Berkley, because I listened to theirs on Strip Showgirls, and like she really thought that was her movie. Like she was excited. She's like, I get to dance on film. I love dancing. It's been her passion her whole life. She's like, I'm the star of this. And it turned out the way it turned out for her, and it's just so unfortunate, because all of her promotion going into it and just everything, she really thought that was going to be her big break.
Sure.
I mean, the cycle of like reappraisal of stuff. I'd say, what? She owns that movie. Like she is putting in the work in that movie. Are some of the acting choices questionable? Sure, but I mean, they're choices. Like
what I learned is a lot of the acting choices was the director's choices and having them overplay it or oversell a scene, overact. and it unfortunately didn't land for
Yeah.
audiences. But I just listened to that, and I was hearing her talk about it. I'm like, man, I feel bad for you because I know what's about to happen to you, and it sucks.
I mean,
But
she's got a cult following now from that movie, and
yeah,
I've
been watching the show Evil, which I'm digging. Michael Couture is just not a strong actor. He played.
You said that last week, I think, too, right?
Yeah. I say that I couldn't remember.
It's okay.
Who's
sorry,
Michael
you just remember me. Yeah.
The guy who played Luke Cage, isn't that his name? Coulter? Michael
Coulter. Oh, Michael Coulter. Yeah.
Like, I want to like him as an actor. It's just he's not strong. I wish he was. He's in a show with Michael Emerson, like all these people who are great television actors, and it's just he doesn't hold the same weight. But it still works. It's still a good show despite that. And he's getting better. Every season he gets better.
Is he kind of relegated to being the stoic straight man to a lot of stuff? Because that's all I've seen him do so far. Luke Cage is kind of steadfast, the stoic kind of guy that all the more flamboyant or exaggerated personalities revolve around.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. He gets a little bit to play with. He plays a priest, or a guy going into the priesthood, and him and two other people, two non-believers, they investigate things that the Catholic Church may or may not want to be part of an exorcism or something in those lines. And he kind of plays the straight man, while the other two are more like, I don't believe in this crap. And
so
they have
he's
more
a priest.
Of the fun stuff. What's that?
He's a priest. Okay.
Yeah.
Is he as ripped as he was in Cage?
Yeah, of course he is.
You just do him. I mean, sure. Reps for Jesus. That's awesome.
Reps for G's. Well, now you got me peaked, but now I want a team up of him just being like, ugh, and Russell Crowe from the Pope's Exorcist, where he's Orson Welles, basically.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. The Avengers assemble for exorcisms.
Now that would be a great
thing
comedy
that really tells me on this show, while I like the other two leads, is Michael Emerson playing a guy possessed, or the guy that works as the devil's right-hand man in the show. It's fantastic.
Is the
if
devil?
You guys don't know who Michael Emerson is. He was the villain in Lost. What'd you say, Justin?
Oh, he's good. Is the devil like on screen? Do they have a person playing like a human version of
kind of like the goat story that we were talking about with the gentleman we interviewed, which will come out in December. Everybody, definitely stay tuned for that.
Looking forward to that goat story in December.
That's what
a little spoiler for the interview, but he was telling us about what show was it? Shining Vale. He was in Shining Vale with Courtney Cox, and he was playing a goat, a manifestation of a demon, and they're shooting a sex scene between him and Courtney Cox. It's him as the goat and Courtney Cox, and he's just describing this to us, and they're like, "You're doing fantastic." And he's like, "I really don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea, like, how this is."
Wait. Okay, well, I'm sure I'll find out when I actually watch the full interview. I should probably just save the question because it'll probably be answered. No, I'm gonna ask it now. To hell with it. Was he in goat form during the sex scene? Is he supposed to be a goat during the sex scene?
He was in full makeup. He said, like, he was like the representation of the devil.
Oh, okay. So he's like a satyr then, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever. Like the way it was explained, like he had like I'm pretty sure like goat head, like body.
He's like Mr. Tumnus from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, don't put that in my mind, Mike.
Well, no.
Him with a sex scene with Courtney Cox.
But you're right. I think there are like definitely like, I know the goat, the devil thing, but yeah, you're very right, Mike.
C.S. Lewis is cussing me out right now. He's like, how dare you? Well, because C.S. Lewis, hardcore Christian, being like, how dare you lay that on my poor Mr.
Aslan, you must kill Mike.
Strike me down, kind of, sort of Jesus lion.
I did finish Only Murders in the Building season 4 just wrapped. It ended with a nice wedding between Martin Short and Meryl Streep. I love that she's still on this show. It's fantastic. I have become a fan of Martin Short. If you've seen previous 3 Geeks podcast episodes, I've said horrible things about Martin Short. I've since taken them all back because I love this show. I thought most shows like this, they would have had, because every season of Only Murders in the Building, in the final episode, they set up the murder that's going to, roll into the next season. And I thought, like most shows, would have had the murder happen at the wedding. That's not the case. And I kind of applauded them for not going the obvious route, and I can't imagine who else they're going to get on the show. Like already we had Eugene Levy playing Steve Martin, we had Zach Galifianakis playing Martin Short, and we had Eva Longoria playing Selena Gomez, and it was fantastic.
Wait, what? So in this universe, Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez exist, except they're being played by those people.
No, I'm sorry. I should rephrase. So they're making a movie based on their first season of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
That's what Hollywood does. And those three are playing them in the thing. So there's a lot of interaction. Martin Short and Zach Galifianakis need to do a buddy something movie together because they are really funny together. And, Zach Galifianakis, people forget that he can act. Like, he is actually a pretty good actor. And he gets moments in the show that show off both. Like, you get the Zach Galifianakis from The Hangover that you like, and then you get the Zach Galifianakis who can really act. And yeah, guys, this season was good. This show just keeps rolling, and I'm glad because Steve Martin's retiring afterwards. I've never really been a huge Steve Martin fan either, and I need to go back and watch some of his stuff because they're both clicking with me. So maybe I've just reached that age where I'm finally ready to jump on some of their filmography. But I highly recommend the show.
Do you guys remember that? I think he's in it. Was he in that like TV like King Arthur story? Like it was years and years ago. It was like I remember like
King
watching it with my parents. Like where like I don't know. It was like 3 hour like part 1, part 2.
Oh no! Are you is it the Merlin miniseries?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the TV Merlin. Yeah.
Sam Neill was Merlin, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Martin Short's in that one.
That's what I'm thinking of. Like as a kid, I don't know, maybe just me and my love for fantasy stuff, but I loved that show. TV.
You mentioned it, the wedding thing, Jason, because I'm like, you weren't spoiling it for me because I saw those pictures because they showed up in my feed and people were like disappointed that it wasn't real life because Meryl Streep and Martin Short are dating. So they were disappointed that it's like, oh, they didn't actually get married. Nuts.
Is that real? Are they really dating in real life?
Meryl Streep and Martin Short are dating.
About that.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Good for you, Martin.
Hopefully they're happy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. This show, the cast is phenomenal.
I'll have to check it out eventually. I've been meaning to.
I get it, man. There's a lot of television out there.
There's so much.
A lot of good stuff out there too. And speaking of good stuff, you guys catch up on Penguin?
No, I'm an episode or 2 behind, but I will this weekend.
Wait, is it just 6 episodes right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen. Okay, so the last one was where. Well, not to give it away, but
give it away.
Victor popped his cherry, right? Was the last episode in terms of
yeah. And again, another show that didn't do the obvious thing. Like there's scenes with Sophia where you think she's going to do something like they would do in most quote unquote gangster films, and she doesn't do it. And I was really, really surprised. And kudos to them for not doing the obvious. Like there's mild spoilers, Justin. Sorry, but there's scenes where you think she's going to kill somebody because that's what would happen once you get the information, and she doesn't. And I thought that was a fascinating choice to leave said character alive. So,
okay, then I'm caught up. I thought for some reason the 7th episode had dropped or something. Like, oh no, there's a new one. I'm about to ditch the podcast.
Is it Wednesdays or Sundays that thing drops?
Sundays, I think.
Sundays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I finished Agatha.
How was it?
How'd you like it?
Yeah, I actually. Here's the thing. I haven't watched a Marvel TV show since probably what was it? What came last? She-Hulk or Miss Marvel?
I think it was She-Hulk.
So Ms. Marvel was probably
Ms. Marvel first. Okay.
Yeah, that was probably the last Marvel show I actually watched like in real time, aside from of course X-Men '97, which is its own thing. But I liked Agatha. It was weird. It was trippy. It took some risks. It was actually funny and like appropriately funny in parts that it needed to be. I love Catherine Hahn. So I'm all about her getting more work. I will say the drawback is episode 7 is like the pinnacle of the series. And then episode 8 and 9, they kind of sort of feel like an afterthought. They round out the series okay, but I'm also like, episode 7 reaches such like a cool moment, and it's just like, well, how do you beat that? And they couldn't, and the series kind of just meanders for another 2 episodes, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna end now.
Is it set up for a second season or not at all?
They could do a second season, but honestly, it's setting up for some other stuff.
Cool.
That can obviously tie into either more shows or movies. So
I just watched the first episode of Agatha, and I meant to keep going, and then I just got sidetracked with other things. But I'm very curious because it's the first Marvel show to actually use a writer's room and have a traditional showrunner. So, like, I'm very curious to see how it works out.
No, I had a good time with it, and I was actually at a comic shop. I went across the border to Pennsylvania for lunch, and went to a comic shop, and everyone was like talking about it, and I'm like, got in on the conversation. It was cool to be in like a really positive comic shop environment. I was like, cool.
Nice. Usually, yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't gotten to those a lot. The ones I've visited, usually people are shitting on something.
Yeah, it's just people griping about like, oh, my day we did this and this. And here it was just like people who are at least my age or younger or even older kind of being like, really dug Agatha.
Yeah.
What's up, Corey?
Dude,
Corey.
You brought up toxic fandom, and I'm going to talk about it, even though Matt Talk, I got a week before Matt Talk comes, so I'm going to talk about it here. So I'm in a Matlock Facebook group, right? And, you know, everybody's excited because the new Matlock, which doesn't happen for very many TV shows, it got renewed after the 2nd episode, right? And I posted in there, I said Linda Pro, who was on the original series, I said she even likes it and said that people should go check it out. And the guy's like, well, Linda Pearl lost a fan. And I'm like, you're going to stop being fans of somebody because they like a TV show? That is good. Like, it's exhausting. It is exhausting. Just like, guys, it's Kathy Bates. You're lucky you have her on television right now.
As if that declaration of you lost a fan here really matters to that person. As if that's going to be like the big polar shift in their opinion on the show or on any other person's opinion on the show. Cool. Deprive yourself of something you enjoy. I don't give a shit. That's on you.
Oh no, Turkey Sandwich 123 doesn't want to subscribe to me anymore.
Yeah. Enjoy being a miserable fuck for no reason. Then it's like, I don't know that well, because you know what just recently happened. Harrison Ford released a video endorsing a candidate, and all I've been seeing is people being like, "Well, he's not my Han Solo anymore." And blah blah blah.
You can't win when you do something like that. There's just too like, polar, yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like, oh,
who cares?
What you guys are such fucking babies. It's like, well, did you really think Harrison Ford was gonna come out as a full-on Red Hatter? Really? Did you think that dude was gonna be in your camp? Like,
I agree with you.
Can't win with politics.
Calm down. Everybody has an opinion. I read them all the time on Facebook. Whether I agree with you or not, it's your title to your opinion. I'm not going to stop liking you. Well, unless other things happen. But
unless you're a total asshole who's all about like dehumanizing people, in which case, fuck you. I don't need your friendship or your association.
That's right. So I don't.
That's
care.
Right.
Just have your opinion and keep it to yourself, or don't bitch when other people have an opinion if you want to share it. So, guys, our top 5 movies that we want longer, or maybe had sequels, or maybe were a TV show. However, we want to interpret this. And guys, I'm going to go first because I will never get more of this, even though I wish I had. And maybe it's because he's no longer with us, but I wish they would have released an extended cut of Uncle Buck or something, because I know there's deleted scenes to Uncle Buck. I know there's a lot of deleted scenes to Uncle Buck, and none of the releases have deleted scenes. So I can get more Uncle Buck. Can't get a sequel, but you guys can share some more Uncle Buck with me. I love that movie. Macaulay Culkin, John Candy together, so good. It's a shame they didn't have a scene together in Home Alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Which one came? Uncle Buck came first before Home Alone, right? Yeah. Okay. I was trying to.
They were in 3 movies together, and only one they had, which was Uncle Buck. They had scenes together.
What was the third movie?
Only the Lonely, which is one of my favorite romantic comedies because John Candy is not the typical romantic comedy lead, and I love the fact that they did that in the 90s.
Okay.
Cool. Mine is the Dark Tower movie. That could have been like a whole like trilogy of movies or 10 movies if you wanted to, and they mushed it into a 2-hour thing. And I like Idris Elba. I like what am I spacing on his name? The villain,
McConaughey.
Yeah, McConaughey.
He's Man in Black or something, right?
Yeah, he was. And it's like there's a lot of story here for you to try to do this thing in 2 hours, and I wish they would have just decided to do like a whole like thing and make it an actual like good movie. Right now, it's not a good movie.
I'm trying to remember my Stephen King lore, especially when he's doing his expanded whatever mythology stuff. Yeah. That character that McConaughey plays, that's a character from The Stand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I believe you're right. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. It's like, well, they could still, I don't know, like they could obviously like reboot it and do the proper like expansion and then like just do a full. I know they've done The Stand already as like a miniseries, and so, but they can do it again.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great for a TV show. I think it'd be perfect for a TV show.
I got good news for you, Justin. First, I'm going to say hi to Jesse. Jesse, how is Lower Decks so far? I haven't been able to start it yet. Drop down in the comments. I want to hear about it. But Mike Flanagan's working on The Dark Tower right now for Amazon
series. Okay,
yeah, cool. Perfect. Then I'm excited to watch it. Hopefully,
Mike Flanagan and Stephen King are a match made in heaven because every Stephen King adaptation he has touched has been fantastic.
Yeah, he seems to have the golden touch when it comes to adapting his work. Because I recently revisited It and It Chapter 2. It's a solid enough movie, and I wish they just kept it at the Chapter 1 part. Because I revisited Chapter 2, and I was like, this doesn't work at all. Like the grown-up stuff being separate and not quite interconnecting with the kids doesn't work. And I'm like, if Mike Flanagan had done this the way he would have handled something like, say, Hill House or Bly Manor and things like that, like, yeah, if it was a series, that would actually work.
It as a series, I've been saying for years, would have been fantastic. It's a shame that we don't get it for a while because of Stranger Things. They can't really, it's been too similar and people would compare it. But Jesse says Lower Decks has been amazing and it just makes me sad it's ending. I know. It sucks.
Question for you all, since we're on Mike Flanagan. I just realized this, and maybe this is a no-brainer and I'm dumb, but the Midnight Club, do you guys remember I think it was a 90s TV show where Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas Midnight Society, do you think there's a parallel? Is it? Was that?
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure he was influenced. Absolutely.
That was the show where the kids would like toss dust
ghost
into
stories,
the fire and tell ghost stories, right?
Yeah, because it was like the same idea in my mind. I was like, I feel like he just took that and put it into a much scarier environment.
Yeah, amped it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen that one yet. I still need to see that one.
I wouldn't, because you don't get a satisfying ending because they canceled it at season 2.
Oh,
like you don't get. I mean, you can. Please, I enjoyed it, but like you're not gonna. There's nothing else once you get to the end of it. Yeah.
And there's an okay enough ending, but yes, no, they definitely set up more at the end.
I'm pretty sure Mike Flanagan posted it on Twitter. Sorry, Jay, I didn't mean to talk over you, but I'm pretty sure he posted on Twitter the ending, season 2.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. If you doubt Mike Flanagan, everybody go watch Dr. Sleep, because he did the impossible. He made Stephen King happy and the fans of the original Shining happy with that sequel. So I highly recommend it.
I know we're way past. We're not way past, but we're past Halloween season. But I have been revisiting Hill House, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, all the Flanagan stuff. Like, yeah, solid. My number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy pre-Infinity War, because I really love the vibe. I mean, I like all 3 of the Guardians movies. They are, frankly, I feel the best MCU movies out there because they have what feels like a genuine through line of heart. But I kind of wish we gotten more with the Guardians before they got into the big crossover. Because it feels like there was a lot of off-screen development for characters. The whole Star-Lord and Gamora relationship actually happens off-screen. And so I kind of felt like it was just starting to actually gel at the end of the second movie. And I'm like, I would love to see the moment where they actually do finally kind of connect and become vulnerable with each other, like legitimately. And when we pick up with them in Infinity War, they've just kind of been there for a while now, because I think the timeline goes is like Guardians 1 happens, 6 months later, Guardians 2 happens, and then 4 years later is when we pick up with him because Groot's a teenager now. So I was like, man, I would have loved to have had some pre-Infinity War, some more pre-Infinity War Guardians stuff before. And I love the third movie. I love how they deal with, how everyone's in totally different places now emotionally. And I thought there was a cool maturation of character that took place especially for Star-Lord, because he's my least favorite Guardian.
I can see that.
But yeah, I just kind of wish we spent more time with the team kind of being a family unit before they're ripped apart in Infinity War. So
fair.
All right. Jesse says, LOL, it isn't possible to make Stephen King happy, so it must be good. Hubby has all of King's books. Yeah, Stephen King has been pretty happy with most of Flanagan's adaptations. Flanagan's doing Carrie next also. I'm curious to see what he's going to do with that. But Jesse, I have a controversial take on Stephen King. I like him better as a writer now than the books that he made in the 80s. I think he's much better at ending things.
Oh, you like post-cocaine Stephen King?
Yeah, he's sober.
Yeah, no, I like.
He's sober and cohesive now.
I like old Stephen King. Don't get me wrong. I just think as a full story, I think his books now are better.
It is a very hot take.
Fairy Tale was really good. The Mr. Mercedes series, all 6 of them have been fantastic. Did you read Fairy Tale, Justin?
I did. I'm pretty sure I recommended it to you before you read it. Not to say I was the reason you read it, but I did recommend it, I think. It was just while I was playing. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, sorry. Have you read any of his just pulp detective stuff? Because I read one of them. And I was like, this is a really solid, just like pulp detective type of novella thing. And it's like it's a different departure from like his horror stuff, which is cool.
It's kind of how Mr. Mercedes starts. Like the first 3 books are just detective, or the first 2 books are just detective books, and then it obviously grows into more of the obscure because The Outsider is part of that franchise. I don't know if you saw that on HBO, The Outsider.
Yeah, I have. That was creepy as shit.
Another good adaptation, absolutely. But my number 4 is a movie like this. I wouldn't typically want a sequel to, but I kind of do because I want to see what she does once she leaves, and that's Ex Machina, which is one of my favorite films of all time. I want to see the next step for her. I want to see what happens to her after she leaves the cabin. I'm very curious for that story. I don't need it. Like, I shouldn't say I need it because I'm still happy with this, but I definitely want to see more.
Ex Machina goes to New York.
Yeah. What's that?
Ex Machina goes to New York.
Yeah.
Jason takes Manhattan.
In Manhattan. Yeah. Man, that movie. I can only watch that movie once. Like, it's a good movie, but boy, it made me sad. Locking that dude in the house was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
She's a monster.
I watched it.
Well, is she the monster, or is she just
the creator, right? Frankenstein versus Frankenstein's monster, right? Like, in terms of Frankenstein definitely is the bad guy, but
yeah, this is full disclosure, I kind of just proposed this idea for a top 5 on a whim earlier today, and then I realized as I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be hard because how many of these it's just like I'm more happy with just the ambiguity of the ending.
Sure.
Like, do I really want a continuation of certain stories? And it's like that's one I never would have pegged, but now I'm like, yeah, that would be a curious type of exploration of what does she do in the outside world now. But at the same time, it's kind of like we can leave it up in the air too, because
I think it'd be hard to have a satisfying sequel.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard. I mean, I'm sure they could do it. I just think it'd be really hard.
Well, I mean, you kind of sort of have that because Westworld.
True.
Yeah, that's fair.
Westworld kind of continued the theme of that. They made it to the outside world and turned out to be a catastrophe. So,
my number 4, and I think I've said this before on the podcast, but I love Spawn. I want more Spawn, so it can either be the animated series or the movie. I don't mind, but I want more of either one of those because I watched the HBO series a lot, the animated one, and I enjoyed the live action movie for what it was. But like it enticed me enough that I wanted either a sequel or just more of it. Like he had just gotten to hell at the end of it, says like, "I'm going to defeat you, big bad devil," and then it just ends right without like anything else.
They left a lot of questions open on the series because it was like there's going to be a child born that's going to determine the fate of like Armageddon. He's like he finally wises up and is like, oh, I can't just be a miserable undead prick. Like I need to, if I want to become human again, I got to start acting like a human.
Yeah.
And yeah, they set up a lot of stuff and then it just ends. And I'm like, I think they fully had an idea, like we were going to go ahead with another season and then they just got cut short.
Yeah, I loved the animated show. I got it later in life and I really, really dug it.
Well, good news,
I recently
the creative response since 1999 says that a new film is coming out at any time.
Yeah. Yeah, he said
since 1990.
Todd McFarlane trots out the idea of like, oh yeah, we're gonna make Spawn here any second now. That's my Todd McFarlane impression. I've seen it plenty of documentaries, but like he's had Jamie Foxx attached to it. He's wanted Michael Jai White to come back. Keith David said, he's like, oh, Keith David's up for voicing Spawn again. I mean, Keith David has voiced Spawn in Mortal Kombat, so
yeah.
I'm happy.
He's such a good voice for it too. Yeah.
I recently saw an old video of an HBO promo they did for Spawn where it's like it starts off as like a cutesy like Bambi. You see like the deer prancing through the forest, and then you close up on like Thumper and his family, and then Thumper turns to the camera and starts laughing maniacally, and it's the clown.
It's a clown. Oh,
and
that's so good.
He bursts out of the rabbit and is like chewing on the rabbit's ear. He's like, tastes like chicken. And then he's like walking away and laughing. I'm just like, holy shit, that's an awesome promo.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Jesse says, catch up on LD and you can join me on a lot. I would love to. I'm attached to my son on this one, so I can't cheat on him and watch it without him. I have to wait. So if I can get him here and sit him down to watch the 4 episodes, Jesse, I totally want to come on and talk to you about it. I'd have a blast.
Everything okay?
What's that?
I heard something fall somewhere. I was like,
oh no. My front door opened. You're good.
Oh, okay, cool. I was like, everyone all right? Is it me? Number 4, Akira. And when I say that, I mean like when the animated movie came out, like the creator was still doing the series, still doing the manga. And so they kind of took elements of the comic, that had already existed and some idea. It's a very Game of Thrones situation where they conjured up an ending for the movie when the creator's still in the midst of creating the series. And so now I'm kind of like, I would love to see what a pretty faithful adaptation of the full manga would be of Akira. Now that we have all 6 volumes laid out for us, I would be really curious to see like what that would look like. And it'd probably have to be a series, with multiple seasons. But yeah, it was whenever the Game of Thrones stuff started, I was very much like, this is giving me Akira vibes, because I knew that like Akira wasn't done when the film came out. So
nice, good pick. My next one is, so Tarantino made The Hateful Eight into like an extended form television series on Netflix, and I want him to do that with Inglourious Bastards. This is in my top 20 movies of all time, and I just want to live in this world just a little bit longer. Spend more time with Brad Pitt, Christoph Waltz, Michael Fassbender, because this movie is so good. It's my favorite of Tarantino's, and it's just, even if they did a sequel somehow, whatever. I just want to spend more time in this ridiculous world that they created and spend more time with Aldo Raines, because it is so much fun.
Yeah, that movie made me like realize like anything attached to Christopher Waltz, I'm watching. Like he was so good as the villain in that. It was Christoph Waltz. Am I saying his name wrong? But either way, he was incredible. I really enjoyed I enjoyed hating him, which is a weird thing to say, but I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah,
no, he's really good.
You like love him even though you hate him. And yes, Justin, I get what you're saying, because I've watched a lot of Christoph Waltz movies post Inglourious Bastards, and not all of them are great, but he is always 130% committed to his role. Like Green Hornet is a great example of this. Like the Green Hornet movie is whatever, but Christoph Waltz in that movie is committed 175% to that role that he is playing, and makes the movie watchable, in my opinion. And I love Christoph Waltz. And this is the first movie that I realized, like, it's okay. Like if you're in Germany, like people in Germany speak German. And that's what I loved about this movie, is the language fit, wherever they were within the films.
I think we should amend a little bit and say like, I don't love the Nazi. I like watching what he does because it's fascinating to watch.
It's
I don't sympathize.
It's horrifying. You can't look away. It's probably.
I don't sympathize with the Nazi at any point, but his acting choices make him a curiosity to watch as an audience member. Let's put it that way.
He's super easy to hate because he's a monster on that screen.
Mm-hmm. But he's very engaging as a performer. So anything Christoph Waltz will do, I'm very much in the mode for.
Yeah, I agree. All right, number 3. This one probably stretching the definition of like movie, but like I don't know if you guys watched the short series Shogun, but it was so good. I would live in that series. Like I wanted more episodes. Like I think it's on Fox, but like it was only like 8 no, less than 8. But
FX.
Each one was like a movie. I think it was long, but they were very, very good. I don't know if you've seen them.
Are they not doing another season?
No, it's it.
Okay.
What you got is what you got was what you got, from what I understood. As soon as I finished it, I started Googling season 2, and they're like, from what they're saying is that's the only thing they're going to produce, which makes sense because it's like the start of that dynasty or whatever that I forget his name now, but like that's like the start of that whole like regime, and it was pretty cool. But I love Shogun. Shogun's a great show.
Still in my queue. I need to start it because you and Max have been raving about that. So.
I really, really enjoyed it. Now, once I watched it, I started like doing like the historical research on it because it is based off of like real people.
Yeah.
And like the dude that had a prominent role, the white dude in there, he was just a random traitor. Like in the actual history, like he was kind of a nobody in my opinion. But like,
that's kind of the they romanticize history, and like, the white dude in reality probably played a less significant, if not shittier role.
Very small. From what I read, very small.
It's like all those people like
Jump good news.
Are there season 2 in it?
Shogun. It has been picked up for seasons 2 and 3, but there's no word on filming.
Okay, well then great, because as soon as I ended that show, I googled it and they said that they weren't going to do a season 2. So all right, then I'm wrong. Sweet.
No, this is more recent developments.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's a fascination of mine recently, is because whenever I'm doing stuff around the apartment or I'm working on other creative endeavors, I have a lot of like white noise on TV, and I put on like people first time watching videos. And a lot of people do like a first time watching of The Last Samurai, and they get caught up so much in the emotion of like, oh my God, Tom Cruise and him are friends. And it's like, oh my God, what they're doing. And it's like, in reality, like the samurais were like actual like gangsters. And, they were actually fighting the progression of culture and society. Like they just wanted to be on top and, run their own little fiefdoms, and it's like, it's not as romanticized as you think it is. I mean, there are honorable things about Bushido and all that stuff, but I'm sure Shogun talks about this quite a bit, but like, they're actually kind of assholes.
Dude, the very first episode, they do some horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I won't ruin it because it was such a shock to me that I was like, oh my gosh, it's hard to even like sit through, but it's heavy.
Yeah. It's like, it's not all like honor and codes of honor and stuff like people.
Oh no, they delve into it. Please watch Shogun, because I don't know how accurate it is, but it does paint a picture of them being human. You know what I mean? Rather than But
no, that stuff kind of cracks me up. I'm just like, it's not as romantic as it seems to be in a big Hollywood movie, people. Well, my number 3 is I would just love more movies with Tommy Lee Jones's character from The Fugitive, Sam Gerard. I know he's way too old for it now, but I'm going to be one of the only people probably who ever stood up for U.S. Marshals. Like, I love U.S. Marshals. Whatever. I like that movie. It's got one of your faves in it too, Jay. It's got Roebuck in it. So
he's in both of them. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I always wanted more.
Yeah. And I'm surprised they didn't just start. I mean, I understand because I don't think U.S. Marshals did really well, but that could have easily been an action series that they could have churned out throughout the years. Like, you just keep catching up with Sam Gerard throughout the years as he's rounding up different fugitives. Because it's like, you have Harrison Ford, you got Wesley Snipes, Robert Downey Jr. shows up in U.S. Marshals in a really pivotal role. You got Joey Pants throughout all of them. Like, I don't know, you got a cool cast of characters around Sam Gerard, and I'm like, they just never after that one, I'm like, man, I would have loved more Sam Gerard.
Me too. I like to think of Double Jeopardy as a secret sequel, even though it's not.
You know what? Yeah.
Secret.
Yeah. That's like it's like a backdoor pilot for the rest of Sam Gerard's career or whatever.
They could have easily just changed the name of his character in that and just kept it going.
Well, I mean, because they kept on. If you can do a whole bunch of Alex Cross movies that I'll never watch, then yeah, you can have more Sam Gerard movies.
Of course.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Morgan Freeman. I could do without Tyler Perry, Alex Cross, but if you're gonna turn that into a franchise, you can turn Sam Gerard into a franchise too.
We should be a franchise. 3 Geeks franchise.
It should be. I'd love to be a franchise. Anybody that wants to sponsor us and make us a franchise, please email us 3geekspodcast@gmail.com. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, my number 2, and nobody's gonna guess this because I think me and Mick from Season are the only 2 people I know that absolutely adore this movie, and it is Cuffs with Christian Slater. This is my favorite cop movie, and it is so good. And I wish, like Mike was saying about U.S. Marshals, and I wish that they had kept this going. It's fantastic. He breaks the fourth wall. It's got Mila Jovovich in an early role, and Tony Goldwyn in it as well. And
what year was it?
It came out in 92. I saw this in the theaters like 7 times. Loved it. I wish we had gotten more. We could still get more. Come on, Christian Slater. You're on the comeback trail.
I don't mind you spoiling this for me, but 92, Tony Goldwyn. Is he the bad guy?
No.
Okay. Because that's prime ghost territory.
Prime ghost.
No, there's some really funny comedy work with Tony Goldwyn in it, and yeah, he does a good job with it. Because he always plays a serious role in like everything I've seen him in, and this one he gets to kind of be goofy, and I like that. But that's my pick. Cuffs. Everybody go watch it.
The Resident Evil movies with me.
I remember you talking about this in a previous episode. I'm adding this to my watch list. Cuffs. Doing it right now.
What do you think? It's Christian Slater in the 90s.
I like me some Slater.
I got a bit in trouble when we were in kids because in the opening scene, Mila Jovovich is dancing in her underwear, and Mitt's mom walked in the room. She started yelling at him.
Oh, jeez.
Good job,
Jason.
Amit.
Justin, what's your number 2?
Oh, yeah, I can call me Amit too. My number 2 is Tron Legacy. I loved Tron Legacy. I don't know if it holds. I've not watched it in a couple of years, but I remember distinctly being like, I enjoyed this movie, and I would like to watch more of it.
You're getting a sequel to that, aren't you? Ares. Yeah.
Oh, well, dude, it's a great day. I've learned 2 of my things. Okay.
Well,
3.
Let me see.
Is it really?
Let's see.
It's been like 10 years.
Comes out next year. Daft Punk is doing
next
the
year.
soundtrack with 9 Inch Nails.
Well,
Jeff Bridges should be coming back as Kevin Flynn.
Dope.
Gillian Anderson's it. Oh, Jared Leto is the lead. I don't know. See if you like that.
He's a good actor.
Yeah.
Can be. Depends on what he does.
But all right. I mean, I guess my wish list is coming true. So that's dope.
Yeah, I know.
Sweet. Yeah.
Justin, I watched Tron 2 first, and I dug it, and then I went back to watch Tron 1.
Can't do that. It's different.
Thought I was going to hate it, and I absolutely loved it as well. I thought it was fantastic. I adored it. It was so good.
You set that up to make me think that you were going to hate the first
I know.
one.
I did that on purpose.
You absolutely have to look at those 2 movies as sort of time capsules for what they were.
They're totally,
not just in terms of like the cultural zeitgeist of like, this is what computers do, but in terms of like effects. Because it's like,
that was really what it was. Like the light bikes and stuff were super cool. Especially, I think I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 at the time the movie came out. I had to double check, but like, I don't know. I was younger. It was good. Cool. Mike, what you got?
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Katie's sending me something. That's cute. Sorry. They're having a not Day of the Dead, but what's today considered after Halloween? It's some Mexican holiday, I believe. It has still having to do with like Day of the Dead. They just sent me pictures. Sorry, I was distracted.
You're all right.
I'm multitasking. My bad. Number 2 for me, Twin Peaks. Because I know we come back to, I'll see you again in 25 years. Like, I don't mind coming back to this again anytime soon. At first, when Twin Peaks: The Return ended, I'm like, okay, I think I got an idea of what he wanted to say. But now I'm like, he can say more. Like, I think there's still more he can say in this world. And I just love those characters too.
Yeah.
I don't mind. It could be another 18 episode maxi series, and it's just you're hanging out with each character for a day. Like, you're hanging out with Andy at the station for a day.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
or you're
of
watching
significance.
somebody mop for 18 hours listening to Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't mind, because Lynch knows how to film that shit, and especially with his recent, kind of health issues that came up, where he's probably not going to be on sets that much and things like that. Like, we just got to savor the time we have with him. And I just think returning to this world and these characters, like, you could do whatever with these characters, and I'd watch more of it. So
1,000%.
Twin Peaks.
1,000%. Like, so much so I just got Mulholland Drive. I've never seen it, but I know originally it was a Twin Peaks movie before they had to change it because of the Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me didn't do so well. But I can't wait to watch it, because in my mind, I'm going to watch it the same way I watched Double Jeopardy. I'm going to just pretend it's a Twin Peaks movie, and I can't wait. Because I agree with you, Mike. Like, the end of Twin Peaks, the new series, was so fantastic. It ends the way Lynch ends the stuff, but it also ends in a way that they can continue it. So it could go either way with the way David Lynch does things.
And I think you and I had the same experience of, like, because we obviously, followed the original series, not in real time, of course, because we were really young. But when we watched probably the conclusion of the original series, we're like, what? Like, and kind of that mix of frustration and wonder of, like, what could be. And so when the new one came out, like, I was not at all surprised. Like, he's gonna end it on a note that people are gonna be like, what? And yeah, he did. So I wasn't at all surprised we got the ending we did to the revival series, but I'm sure a lot of people getting into Lynch for the first time ever were like, that's bullshit. How did you? I'm like,
I imagine. Yeah.
Well,
I gotta say, if anybody's watching us and they were fans of the original Twin Peaks and maybe just couldn't get into The Return because it's not the same show as it was in the 80s, I beg you to give it another chance. It is literally an 18-hour movie. Just go into it knowing that. Like, you've got the 3-act structure like you would, but spread out across 6 episodes for each one. It is so well done. It starts to make sense around episode like 10 as much as it can. And it's so good.
Sorry to interrupt, but like, you mentioned like an 18-hour like movie. Have either one of you watched that Horizon, that Western that just came out?
Is that the Kevin Costner one?
Yeah. I watched part 1, and please don't let this like cloud your judgment, but I didn't really dig it. But I think it's because it's like, it felt like a TV show. I feel like he like chunked out, like, I feel like there's a payoff that's going to happen in part 3, and not like part 1 didn't feel very fulfilling. Is what I'm trying to tell you.
From what I understand, it's almost like it's just an extension of what he's been doing with, like, it Yellowstone or some shit? Like, that's the thing. It's in my queue. Like chapter 1's in my queue, and I have yet to watch it just because I'm like, all I've been hearing is like, it's just a continuation of the stuff he's been doing for years now, just cinematic.
Yeah, to me, it's like, I don't know, like, go ahead, sir.
No, I was just saying it's a continuation of what he's been doing. The only difference is he's the one that's done like the writing and the directing and stuff.
Right.
But that's really the only difference. And I heard that like the first half, you have no idea like what's happening, because the payoff's going to be in the second half, which got canceled or postponed until they can figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's postponed.
Yeah.
Which
it was supposed to be a 1-2 punch, like July part 1 and then August part
which
2.
would have made way more sense than having it be delayed. Because now, like, I'll have to go back through and watch the original again just to like.
And that's like a 3-hour commitment.
Yeah, it's a lot to get somebody to be like, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch a thing that I don't really care about to get to the actual good stuff.
I'm assuming because he's the lead in it too.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be quite as kinetic as it would be were he young Kevin Costner. So
I agree.
I'm assuming, and again, I'll have to watch it for myself to make the final judgment. I'm assuming it's a lot of meandering, and majestic shots.
I mean, there is some action that doesn't involve him at all, right? There's like raids and things that happen that like don't even involve him. Like, it's like world building to the point where like hey, the environment they live in is pretty freaking dangerous. Like they're trying to like really emphasize like life is hard for everybody.
Kudos to Kevin Costner for trying something different in the cinemas. Like, good for you. But when Kevin Costner, when they announced he was doing Yellowstone, the TV series, or he would jump into TV, I'm like, that makes sense. This guy has made 6-hour movies his entire career. Like, it makes sense that he's finally jumped to television.
It's his money to burn, so it's like, you go ahead and do what you want, man, if it makes you happy. But I'm just saying,
that's one of the reasons why I gave him my money to see this thing. I was like, hey, I want to encourage people to go do the thing they want to make. Like, and if you're gonna bankroll it, dope, let's do it.
I just, I played Red Dead Redemption, so I know,
which is a wonderful story.
Shit's tough all around for people out in those areas. I get it.
Yeah. I got tuberculosis. Well, I'll go to your funeral in 6 months,
dude. How much? Yeah. Red Dead Redemption 2, man. I'm just like, God damn it, TB gets me in the end.
Right?
Damn it.
As soon as he started coughing, I knew, like, because he progressively coughs throughout the game. I'm like, we did. We're getting dysentery, like the Oregon Trail. This is not good.
the whole time I'm like, okay, fine, cool. But then, you forget about it in between cutscenes. I know we're going off on a tangent. And so, like, when I'm noticing that I'm just limping a lot more, and like I'm a little bit slower, I'm like, oh, I haven't cooked myself a meal in a while, so I'll make like a campsite and cook myself some food and stuff. I'm like, that should do it. And it's like, no, he's still slow. Is he getting skinnier? What is happening? And then the cutscene with the doctor happens. It's like, oh yeah, you got like 6 months. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, that was heavy.
Why did I waste all my supplies? I thought I was trying to fatten myself up a little bit, but no, apparently I'm so much for making your own fate in the video game.
That's right.
Destined to die.
Get pigeonholed into dying in 6 months.
My number one is my favorite movie of all time, and I will never get more of it because they're all dead.
Ace Ventura.
That is The Wizard of Oz. I loved Return to Oz and all of its horrific nightmare fuel that it fed me when I was a kid. But I just revisited this movie recently, and I really wish like we had been able to get more with this cast. Maybe continue the book, stretch it out. Everything they did to Judy Garland while filming this movie was awful and atrocious, and I don't stand for any of it. But she was just spectacular in this movie, despite all of the shit she had to go through. And the rest of the cast, they're really, really good. And we're always talking about how awful studio movies are. And while the studio did awful things, Wizard of Oz is every sense a studio movie. Like there was no director's vision. There was like 4 or 5 different directors making the movie. Right. It somehow worked in the end. And I wish I got to see Judy Garland play Dorothy like one more time. I would have just absolutely loved it. I don't know if there's deleted scenes. I haven't looked on the disc of that yet for that, but I love The Wizard of Oz, and I just reinforced my love for it recently when I rewatched it.
The background of making that movie is really sad. Like the way they treated the Munchkin actors. The Wicked Witch got set on fire in one scene, like literally legitimately set on fire in her big entrance, I think. And it's like, yeah, like, I mean, that was a rough one.
Sorry, was that the film that had like the person that actually got hung?
That's an urban. Yeah, that's an urban.
Debunked. Okay, all right.
Cool. But I mean, the actual treatment of the living, breathing actors on the production it's sad. It's really sad. You're kind of sort of getting your wish because Wicked's coming out.
I am looking forward to Wicked only because I love that universe. But yeah, I mean, even the original Tin Man actor had to be let go because the paint made him sick.
Yeah, the paint was killing him.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's like Jesus.
It shouldn't have worked. Nothing about this movie. This was an episode on that podcast I listened to as well, and yeah, it's phenomenal. They made a movie that was cohesive. Just the whole treatment of actors back then, like Justin, instead of coming on from picture to picture, you would sign with the studio, and you could only make movies for that studio unless that studio decided to lend you to another studio. And if that studio said, "Hey, you're making this movie," guess what? You're making that movie. And it's such a different Hollywood than it was.
So you're almost like a sports team. But
there are remnants of that still, because it's like now it's kind of reversed, where now it's the behind the scenes crew that gets locked into contracts. Like, you know, up until like just a few years ago, Nolan was primarily a WB guy, and then Tenet. Yeah, exactly. And then
that's
Tenet
right.
happened, and it's like, no, you guys are going to screw me over on Tenet. I'm going over to Universal. I'm going to make Oppenheimer with Universal. So it's like it's kind of it's a very different system, but they've just kind of shifted things around now. Like actors can come and go to different studios, but like it seems a lot of the behind the scenes talent gets locked into stuff.
Yeah,
for better.
and
or
there's
for
an
ill.
FU. There's actually an FU to Christopher Nolan in the new Joker movie at the end, because they wanted to do that in the first Joker movie, but since Christopher Nolan was at WB, he's like, please don't. So they didn't, because he was there. So at the end of the second Joker movie, he cut. Spoiler alert, everybody! He cuts the smile in his face at the end.
Oh,
that was something that
that was
Nolan didn't want, I guess.
That.
Whatever.
Well, cool. It didn't work. It didn't work. It wasn't effective. So good on you, WB. Sorry. I know, Jason. Sorry. We haven't gotten to this. We got into it in the chat. Joker 2 disappointed me. I was just like, it's you. I mean, you guys tried to hype. You guys tried to hype me up for it. I was open to it going in. I'm just like, this is doing nothing for me.
Like I said, it's very rare that Max and I walk into a movie and come out where, you know, the tomato score is low and we both agree on something being great. So, I mean, it's fair. I mean,
I've dragged my feet very much on watching it, because, like, if I love it, that's great. But also, I don't want to spend 2 hours of me hating a thing. Just in general, I've been waiting for it to come to video.
Like, I get what the movie's doing, and again, tangent, but I get what the movie's doing. I can appreciate that it's trying to deconstruct a little bit of the hype that was built up around the first movie. I don't mind that at all. I really don't mind the performances that much at all. Joaquin does kind of feel like he's phoning in, but that's just because I've seen him do his character already, so it feels like just second nature at this point. It was the musical stuff. Like, I'm like, this musical stuff is just not interesting to me. And also, I'm just like, I don't think Todd Phillips is that interesting a filmmaker. Outside of, you know, old school, I haven't really liked any of his movies. So
that's fair. All right, Justin, what's your number one? What else can we give you good news about, Justin?
I promise you won't give me good news about this one. I loved, growing up, Freaks and Geeks. I watched that whole season when it was airing, like, originally. And now a lot of those actors are scumbags now, but that's fine. But, like, they were children when they were filming that.
I think it's just one that's a scumbag. It's just the one.
I don't know. I know James Franco isn't great. That's all.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, who are the? Let me look up who the main ones are.
Like Rogan, James Franco. There's a couple other.
Dude, I got good news for you, Justin. You get to meet Sam Levine in Monaco.
There you go.
I loved that TV show, and I laughed every time I watched it. It was a really, really good show, and I was bummed out that they canceled it.
It seems
that
like
and Firefly.
James Franco's the only one in the crowd there that is
good.
Because it's got Jason Segel, Seth Rogen.
Yeah, there's a bunch of names. It had a bunch of names.
What's the female's name? She's one of my favorite.
Linda. Well, Linda Cardellini. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember when I was like, I used to watch it like religiously when I was growing up, and like when it was airing, and I really dug it.
You know what I found to be another kind of it was a 1-season thing, but I found to be kind of another continuation of it, minus the James Franco, was Undeclared. I kind of liked Undeclared.
Undeclared was good. I liked Undeclared. Yeah,
I liked Undeclared quite a bit, and that had Seth Rogen in it, right? Yeah,
yeah. It was like an unofficial sequel series, even though it's not this. Like spiritual sequel, I guess is the right word.
Oh wow, I'm going down a rabbit hole now of like college boner comedy TV shows, because there was another one called, I think it was called Opposite Sex, that was released in the same time, and that had what's his name from Heroes, Peter Petrelli from Heroes, Milo.
Yeah, I know you're talking about
some Italian name, Milo whatever. Allison Mack from Smallville, and then Chris Evans as the jock character, the jock comedic relief character, like not awesome. Another teen movie, Chris Evans. I just remember because I have a screen capture of Chris Evans wearing a Jamaican beanie, and I'm like, yeah.
Justin, we'll have to get our picture taken with Sam Levine because he's a nice guy.
I have every belief he is. That's awesome.
All right. Oh, my number one.
Yeah.
More Adventures with Buckaroo Banzai is my number one. Just because I understand like the whole purpose of the original Buckaroo Banzai movie was like, just imagine like you're being dropped into a superhero cinematic universe. Like you're in the middle of it with no prior information or history. And so you have to kind of play catch up with the movie and be like, okay, there are these pre-established relationships between Buckaroo and his crew of, heroic adventurers and things like that. But also it's got a lot of cool style to it. It's bizarre. John Lithgow's playing a fascist Italian alien. I don't know. It's weird, but I always love the imagination of it. And they teased that there was going to be a sequel. And while part of me is like, I know that's just part of the stylistic choice of like, check out the next adventure of this character that honestly we're never going to see again. I'm like, you know what? I would love to see more Buckaroo Banzai. Because it was literally like you're being dropped into the middle of an Avengers level event without any prior knowledge of who the Avengers are. And I'm like, I kind of dig this.
That is awesome. I'll have to check it out. I've never even heard of it. I'll have to go watch it.
Yeah. Where is it? I keep talking. I'll find it.
All right.
They recommended a movie called...
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice. I need to check that out. They recommended a movie called Girl Hunts Boy, which I went and I checked it out. And this isn't a movie for Mike, maybe for Justin, but definitely not for Mike or Max. It was fun. I had fun with it. I like Peyton List as an actress. She was a lot of fun in the movie. It's a Hallmark movie with better acting.
So they warned us it was a Hallmark movie, right?
So if you're into Hallmark movies and you want to see them with better acting, then this is for you. Nice. I like the ending because, again, it didn't do what a typical movie like this would do at the end. And I did dig that. It was a little different because I've watched a Hallmark movie where a ghost and a woman fell in love, and at the end, somehow the ghost is alive again, and it just didn't make any sense to me or anything. Yeah. And this one, spoiler alert, does not do that, and I do like what they did with it. But yeah, I mean, that's all we got for you guys today. Check out Mike at youtube.com/Mike McGTV. I just want to make sure I checked all the boxes of our...
Your transition game is so strong. Well, we're done.
We'll save Paramount talk for later.
Oh, no, let's talk about it.
No, I mean, it's really a nothing burger right now because it's like the movie's not even out yet. So we'll see how it does. But like Paramount's like wanting to really push ahead with the marketing for Mission Impossible 8, saying like this is the last Ethan Hunt adventure, and Tom Cruise is like, I want to keep playing Ethan Hunt. So
if Tom Cruise wants to do it, Tom Cruise is going to do it. I feel like there's not a lot of
And I was just saying in our chat, like personality wise, I don't like the guy because he's a culty weirdo. But he does take care of the people on his productions. So I got to give him that. Like through the pandemic, through strikes, he kept people on salary. He took lockdown on sets when it came to the pandemic very seriously, as we heard from that audio, which, you know what, yeah, sure, people have freakouts on sets. Christian Bale had a freak out on set and things like that. This one felt a little bit more justified because it's like, yeah, it's a health risk, but also like you're putting the whole production in jeopardy. So it's like, shape up. He expects a certain quality of professionalism from people, so sure, because he's putting his money into it. But yeah, I'm kind of curious the direction Mission Impossible is going to go after this movie, because Dead Reckoning technically didn't earn its money back.
Oh, I think it did better in home video release. I
mean, it eventually did, but its initial theatrical release was very underwhelming. And part of me feels like that was more about the release date. But I've always kind of wondered if that's kind of the beginning of Paramount being like, we don't like that this one individual has his studio kind of got a creative stranglehold on a franchise. We want that franchise for ourselves so we can reboot it with younger people and things like that, even though
James Bond.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, I'm kind of curious like what the marketing is going to be like for this movie, if he is like fighting to stay on, if they'll be like, okay, we're not going to market the hell out of this then, so that way hopefully it underperforms a little bit and justifies us taking it away from you a little.
It's just it's a weird thing. Like I can't believe everything you're saying to me. It's just like, guys, if you do this to him and you piss him off, you're not going to get Top Gun 3, at least not the Top Gun 3 that people want to see. Like Tom Cruise is literally the only movie star left. He's the only person that people still go to the movies to see. Everything else is based on franchise or who the director is more so than the actor. And you don't want to make him mad. And, I like Dead Reckoning a lot. And one of the problems with Dead Reckoning, I think, is also as you attach that part 1, I think you should have just called it Dead Reckoning and just had the sting at the end, because it pretty much is its own thing.
Oh,
it ends. Like there's an ending and then there's a sting at the end. But I don't know. I think that's bad business, personally. I agree with you. Everything you said about Tom Cruise, as personally, but it seems like Mike said, he cares about his people and he's a good actor. So I wouldn't want to make him mad. He's the last of a dying breed. I hate to say that. I know he's 60. I don't mean him dying. I just mean the movie star is gone. Like they wanted The Rock to be a movie star, and that's not going well at all. This Christmas,
well, you never know.
He's an influencer though. Everything he does makes money for the most part. His
Let's Save Santa movie could really pull things off.
I'm gonna go see that just because I'm a sucker for Christmas movies. But I mean, you can tell he's starting to get a little desperate because they just announced Jumanji 3 or 4. I don't know how they count it. I don't know if they count the original in their Jumanji-ness, but yeah.
I think they have to, right? Because the Treehouse stuff had remnants of Robin Williams, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the first one, whatever the first Rock.
I mean, it is what it is. I'm tired.
I've only watched the first Jumanji. I've never watched any of the Rock Jumanjis.
That's fair. They're fun, but Robin Williams is better. I'd go watch Robin Williams 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. I like Kevin Hart in those movies, and I liked Danny Glover, but who was Danny Glover in the second one? Like, who was his avatar? Do you remember, Justin? Because I think it was Kevin Hart. He did such a good job at playing old Danny Glover as Kevin Hart. But well, guys, like I said, check out Mike at youtube.com/Mike McGee TV, and you guys can follow us at 3 Geeks Podcast. We're posting shorts every day. My reviews have been getting positive buzz online, so I thank you guys for that. And like, comment, subscribe, and we will chat with you guys very, very soon. I'm stalling so I can pull up the closing credits.
Recycle your droids.
That's right.